So for your first programming assignment this week, you are going to need to store information in variables and understand how your computer or your browser is using that information and what it's doing with those variables. So we are going to go ahead and walk through task 3 for ICE number 5, which we did a couple weeks ago, which has to do with evaluating expressions. So within ICE 5, I've given you a set of expressions and I've asked you to use paper and pencil or pen to hand execute the code and figure out what we think might happen and then actually run it and see what happens. So let's do that. So I'm going to go ahead for now and I'm going to copy this code and I'm going to paste it. Well, I've got to create some script tags, right? So create some script tags, and I'm going to paste that code right there. Awesome. All right, make these look kind of nice. Okay, so what we're going to do together is we are going to do what is called a variable trace table that will allow us to trace our code. So for now, I'm just going to do it in a doc because it's easier for you to see on my screen. So in this example, we have 3 variables, x, y, and z. So I'm going to add a table, and I'm going to make it 3 columns, so 3 columns for 3 variables, x, y, and z. And I'm going to go ahead and make it, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So 15 rows. So the reason I chose that, just so you know and can see, is we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 lines of code before we are printing them all to our screen. Okay? So we're going to go ahead and put x, y, and z. And the way that this trace table will work is we are essentially going to record for each line of code. We're going to go line by line and we're going to record what the value is for each variable. So on line 8, it says var x equals prompt, please enter a number. Let's go ahead and assume, just for the sake of this assignment, we're going to say that we entered the number 3. Okay, so what line 8 is doing is it's asking the user to enter a number. We're going to assume that the user entered 3. Okay, so at this point, x is 3, y doesn't have any value, z doesn't have any value. We haven't even declared them. They don't even exist yet. Okay, line 9, we declare var y, but we don't give it any value. So x is still 3, y has no value, z has no value. Line 10, same thing. So x is still 3, y is nothing, z is nothing. They have no value. Don't even put a 0 in. 0 is still a value. Okay, so we are just leaving them blank. Okay. All right, so now we get to line 11, and line 11 says x equals x plus 1. So the value of x is now 3 plus 1, which is 4. Still no value for y, still no value for z. Okay. We're on line 12. X is still 4, right? So line 12 says y equals x. So x doesn't change. X is still 4. Y is now also 4. And z hasn't been declared yet. Okay. Then we get to line 13 and we say z equals x plus y. So z is going to be 4 plus 4, which is 8. Y is still 4. X is still 4. Now, at this point, line 14 says alert. So this is going to pop up that little button and it's going to say the value of x is plus x. So this is what we call string concatenation. We are adding this string to this value of x. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead just so that I can kind of show what this looks like. Alert will say the value of X is 4, right? It's going to pop up whatever that value of X is. Notice the value of these 3 haven't changed at all. All we're doing is popping something up for the user to see. So line 15 says X equals 4 times X. So 4 times 4 is 16. Y is unchanged, and Z is unchanged. And then our alert, so again, I'm going to go ahead and merge these. Alert will say the value, the new value of X is now 16, right? Then it says Y equals X times Y. So X is unchanged. Y is going to be 4 times 16, which is 64. And Z is also unchanged. And then we're going to get another alert that will say, alert will say the value, oh, nope, that's a lie. Y is now 64. And then we say Z equals X. So X is still 16, Y is 64, and Z is 16. Okay. And then our alert is going to do some math. So it's going to say Z divided by 2 is plus Z over 2. So we are going to get, Z divided by 2 is 8. And then it says Y equals X minus 1, and this is the modulo sign. So X minus 1 mod 3. So this will give us the mod sign gives us the remainder. So first we're going to calculate X minus 1, which is 15. Mod 3, the remainder is 0. So X is still 16, Y is now 0, and Z is still 16. So even though we divided it by 2 up here, we didn't reset the value of Z. So we get Z divided by 2 is, or Z is 16. So what we're expecting it to print out is X is 16, Y is 0, Z is 16. So now, after you've hand executed, you're going to save your code. And we're going to save it as calculations.html. Save it. And let's go ahead and browser preview it. We're going to enter 3. That's what we put before. The value of X is 31. So we did end up getting Y correct, and we did get that X and Z are the same, but we didn't get what we expected. Like I was saying, when we run this, we don't get what we expect, right? We get it comes up as this really, really large number, and it's because it's reading this as a string. So X, right, we've input something and it's reading it as a string, and so it's just adding the 1 to the end of the 3. All right, so what we want to do is on line 8, we're going to add parse int, and we're going to put it around the prompt. All right, and when we do that, we're going to get what we expect to get. So we're going to do File, Save, and let's go ahead and do a browser preview. Enter the number 3 again. Now we get the value of X is 4. We get the value of X is 16. We get Y is 64, which is what we expected. Z divided by 2 is 8. Awesome. And our output, X is 16, Y is 0, Z is 16, is exactly what we predicted. So that's how you store values in variables, and you can do calculations with them, which you will likely need to do as part of tic-tac-toe, but also again when we continue to work more with variables next week.